can't be the only one who's noticed how many age gap relationship movies with an older woman with a younger man have come out recently, right? And it just got me thinking, because there has been a lot of discourse around age gap relationships shown on screen, right? And just how prevalent older man to young woman really is. It is just standard. It is normal. And we, including myself here, have discussed the issues around age gap relationships. And I just have to say, disclaimer, I do not stand against all age gap relationships. I have done a huge video here all about all of this, and I did a big survey on that, so that's already covered. We're not getting into that today. What I want to address is, why have these movies become so common? Are we now doing age gap relationships in a more, I don't know, equitable way? Is the power dynamic dealt with? Are people being seen as more than just some hot young thing for the older person to brag about? Or are we actually regressing and just doing a gender swap? And if these stories were role reversed, would we be as happy with them? There are minor spoilers ahead for all of these movies, but when we get to the real spoiler part later on, I will give you a warning, and I'll have a separate spoiler for the Bridget Jones mad about the boy thing, because that is still in movies right now. I actually got to see that in an empty cinema, and I really want to give a special shout out to my patrons for this video, because they wanted me to talk about this, and they've actually really helped form what you're seeing before you. And don't forget, patrons, you already have the ad-free, full, extended, uncensored version of this video up for you, because we are sometimes talking about some scandalous things which are not allowed to be talked about or shown on YouTube. For everybody else, let's get on into it.
Please tell me you're not going to date her.
The grandmother? Never. You think I'm too old for you?
Are you kidding? You're fabulous. I collect antiques.
We appreciate it.
Let's quickly look at the age gap trope, because age gaps are not new in media. We are so used to seeing older men with younger women. People barely bat an eyelid unless it's something that's fairly extreme, like Colin Firth and Emma Stone together in a movie, and that feels weird. Or when you're looking at any of the Bond girls, especially from back in the day, huge age gaps, and this has just been sort of normal in most romantic love pairings in movies, and it's just, well, that's just how it is. But usually with an age gap relationship on screen, it falls into one of two categories when it comes to women. So you either have the gold digger who is there to manipulate the man, she's going after him. Think, you know, like Meredith from Parent Trap.
I'll be 12 soon. How old are you?
26.
Only 15 years older than me. How old are you again, Dad?
Wow, suddenly you're so interested in math.
Or she's a wide-eyed ingenue who is kind of new to the world and has the older person sort of show her the world. And typically she's more enthusiastic about life and gets him out of his sad, depressed old man sort of rut. This is very common when it comes to romantic tropes in movies. And you do, of course, have a spin-off of this, which is the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, where it's kind of like the entire purpose of meeting this younger woman in the movie is to have life given back to him, because now he's wanted by a younger woman, therefore he can now show her off to people, and yeah, we get into all of that. She's there basically to serve his ego. That's really what a Manic Pixie Dream Girl is, and people have talked about this many years ago. I don't need to cover the trope for you. In most of these sorts of movies, it's about the younger character fitting into the older character's life. You don't really see much to do with the friendship group on their side, the younger side. You don't see how the older person is meant to fit in with them. No, it's all about how the younger person is meant to come over to the older person's side. And that's something I do take issue with, because both people should be able to have full fulfilled lives separately from each other and kind of blend those together, rather than just this one person being like, I just fit in with you now, this is what I do. When it comes to an age gap relationship with an older woman and a younger man, people typically think of a cougar. You know, this woman wearing too much makeup, excuse me, lots of leopard print, hot pink, shiny vinyl, think long nails. Yeah, I could definitely fall into this sort of category, right? Except for leopard print, because it just doesn't work well with my complexion. We're used to older women who date younger men to be portrayed as this sort of on the prowl, predatory sort of thing, right? But when it comes to an older man, sure, he may be a little bit out of touch, he may be punching above his weight or whatever the term is, but they're not typically, unless they're a side character, deemed to be creeps. Normally the side character is more creepy than the main character, who still goes after the younger people. However, by comparison to the more creepy character, they shine in comparison. That's how it normally goes with guys in movies. And also when it comes to the age gap relationship trope, it can go into the really gross zone of older person with someone who isn't even legal. We saw this in Dawson's Creek with Pacey and the teacher, and Pacey even stood up for the teacher in court, and that was framed to be a good thing. That was like late 90s, early 2000s when that came out. Gross. Call Me By Your Name is one of those that falls into that camp. In all honesty, I haven't watched that movie. One, because of the wannabe Hannibal Lecter gross lead actor, and two, because I don't like relationships where it's like older person with a teenager. I really don't like that. Same. So with these new movies which are coming out, are they avoiding these tropes? Are they giving the younger people full personhood, like humanity back to them, making them into fully developed humans with their own goals and dreams in life? Are we not just objectifying them? Are we not just celebrating the fact that someone's with someone that's younger? And does the age gap even matter? Should it even matter? Or is it just because we're talking about women here, who are the older one in the relationship, that people are starting to clutch at pearls? Women are now reclaiming their sexiness. There's an immediate, what does he see in her when it comes to a younger man being with an older woman? Because as a society, especially if you're watching this video, this will be prevalent in your society too. We are taught that women are at their most beautiful, basically when they're girls, when you're a teenager or just coming out of teenagehood, because that's when you're the most fertile. That's when your skin is the plumpest. As a society, we absolutely do uphold youth equals beauty. And I have talked about that across many, many of my videos. And this argument comes up all the time, anytime that men try to defend the fact that they only ever go after younger girls or younger women. Sorry if I'm not trying to accuse anybody here, but if they're like, well, they're 18, so it's legal, and I know all of the legal ages in each and every country and every state, that's more of a red flag on you, buddy, and are you friends with Dane Cook? And culturally, we've just been taught that younger women with older men makes sense because he's got financial stability, he has a career, and of course we're told that men mature slower than women, and so he needs to be at an older age in order to be able to be at the same maturity level, and girls mature faster, and I've already talked about that before. But what does an older woman have to offer in a culture we've been shown they should be invisible? Now look, trust me, I am the first person to talk about issues of ageism. I have talked about it many times, and I do not like the fact that there is so much policing around age appropriateness, right? Because these women who we see in these movies, they are fairly confident in their bodies. They wear stuff which they feel comfortable in. They're showing more flesh than people over 40 should be showing, or whatever other nonsense as I've talked about here, where I'm wearing the exact same dress actually. And so it's actually really nice to see these women feel sexually empowered and feel confident in themselves and perhaps even gain that confidence back. Should it be through being with a younger person? Well, let's talk about it. Let's quickly look at the age differences between these relationships we're seeing. In the OG, How Stella Got Her Groove Back, she is 42 and he is 20. In Bridget Jones, we know that in 2001, she was 32, and so that makes her 55, 56 this year, but we'll be generous and say 55. However, Rockstar is 29. In Home Again, Reese Witherspoon is 40, and the three guys are mid-20-somethings. The main guy is 27. In Lonely Planet, the ages are never explicitly mentioned, but Laura Dern is 23 years older than Liam Hemsworth, 57 and 34 respectively. In The Perfect Find, you've got 40 and 22. In A Family Affair, there is a 16-year difference, with Zac Efron's character's age being explicitly said as being 34, and Nicole Kidman's character is 50. In No Hard Feelings, we've got 19 and 32. In Babygirl, we've got 57 and 28. And no, I'm not counting Babygirl as a rom-com, don't worry, it's like an erotic thriller. So as you can see in most of these movies, there is a sizable age difference, even in some cases being about twice the age difference happening. And there are two older actresses in this who have said that they haven't had any plastic surgery done, explicitly they've said that. And one of them is Gabrielle Union, and people have speculated about it, but she says that she hasn't had anything done. I don't know if that counts with Botox or anything, but she says she hasn't. And when it comes to Laura Dern, she has been very much openly against plastic surgery. For context, Laura Dern is 1 year older than Nicole Kidman, but she doesn't look like she's gone through any facelifts or Botox or filler or anything like that. Whereas Nicole Kidman, we kind of know that they've had surgery, okay? One thing I kept on noticing when I was watching these movies is that the 40th birthday is kind of like this tipping point for people. Like, people are all, either kind of excited or not really. It's just like, well, once you hit the age of 40, this is what your rest of your life is going to be like, because as a woman, you're not really meant to be desirable anymore. And so for these women to have their 40th birthday, be celebrating with their friends and whatever, and to come upon this guy, what are you going to do at this time in your life? Are you going to go out and buy a ridiculous car? Are you going to go on a solo hike in Into the Wild? Is that the Reese Witherspoon movie? What are you going to do? Or are you going to fall into the same thing as what guys have done and just start sleeping with someone half your age? But the way that they tackle those relationships in these movies is a lot more humanistic. It's nothing to do with one person wanting young people. That hasn't even crossed their mind. Maybe this is purposefully done to counteract any potential cougar kind of accusations at all. Or maybe this is them saying this is how an age gap relationship should be. It should be more of a mutual attraction. It should be mutual respect. It should be showing each other's humanity and treating each other as full humans and not just dismissing someone if they're not doing exactly what you want, you know? And that's one thing I have definitely noticed in these movies is this level of respect which goes towards the younger person, which doesn't always happen. We need to be quite honest. It's more about the young person just slotting in to the older person's life, and that's it.
Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Menage. Wow.
My nightmare. Strike two.
Men the same age as them just aren't any good. This is something which these movies really do like to point out, is looking at the dating pool around these women and who is available to them and showing them as being boring or weird or awkward, nowhere near as articulate as a woman is, nowhere near as beautiful as a woman is.
Divorce, I mean, it's such an identity shift, right?
Yeah.
I totally get it. I mean, who am I if I'm not Jessica's husband?
Oh, God.
Oops, don't tell anybody.
Yeah. Wow.
It's the famous Bridget Jones. So, I told Cosmo I'd take you out for a spin. How's Friday?
I was gonna say, I would like you to accompany me next week to a restaurant for a meal of food.
Why didn't that happen?
Ugo, I never ever once thought about marrying you.
That might be why.
Were you two together for a long time?
No, we were kids. It died out fast.
He's still pretty into you.
He's an alcoholic sex addict. So, he's pretty into everybody.
Sorry.
It's her.
Hi, honey. Yeah, I'll be home.
Just not fitting. They don't mesh, they don't gel, and the guy is typically like this sort of sad divorcee. In other words, she could do better. But in the past, people have been like, well, you're over the age of 40, no man's really going to want you, so you should be looking higher. Okay, well, we could go on to the whole 60-40 club then, couldn't we, like they explored in Gilmore Girls.
60-40 bar. A what? 60-year-old men hitting on 40-year-old women, divorcees mostly.
Really?
Look around.
Now, she can do better than that. What did she see in him?
Big will, short lifespan, the usual draw.
Because a woman over the age of 40, you're not really desirable to anyone of your own age, because men of that age, they definitely want to date someone that's younger than them. I'm putting this in quotes because it's definitely not true in all cases, don't worry. But on that whole who people are attracted to thing, there was a study done recently which just got released this year, which looked at people who went on first dates, and it showed that men and women had a modest preference for people younger than them on a first date. The researchers analysed questionnaires completed by more than 6,000 blind daters who used a matchmaking service to fix them up with a potential long-term partner. Overall, men and women were equally more attracted to younger dates, at least after first meeting. The effect amounted to daters preferring the younger of two potential partners 55% of the time. It's small, and you probably wouldn't notice it yourself with just the naked eye, but it makes a difference in the aggregate. Okay, so it really is just 55% of the time. So this is another reason why we don't just read a headline and go from that. We actually look into the research, we see what the researchers have said and see the studies, right? And the researchers discussed a couple of different possibilities, one of which is that relationship formation with respect to age is driven by men's preferences, not women's. This framing is consistent with the way that historians often think about the age gap, which was much larger in periods that afforded women less control over their romantic choices. And they pointed out that none of the women who participated in the study were likely to be monetarily dependent on men. And according to social role theory, people need to have someone with money because of sexism in our society, but that erodes as society moves closer to gender equality. In other words, it's plausible that women's power and standing in society influences what they actually like, as in maybe women have wanted to date younger men previously, but they haven't been able to because of financial reasons. But hey, equality does mean potentially good for her. She can now. But it is quite interesting seeing this though, isn't it? Because we have been told as a society repeatedly that men pursue younger women, but maybe it is that they actively pursue younger women, whereas when it comes to women dating them, maybe it's after the first date and then it's the reality sort of sets in, and then maybe you're not quite up to scratch in the other areas which are needed to keep up with life. Maybe you're not ready to handle kids or whatever. But we should really look at the stats a little more. Globally, married men are on average 4 years older than their wives. Brandon and I are in the average there. Great. The smallest gap in Europe and North America is less than 3 years. The largest gap is in sub-Saharan Africa, where men tend to be more than 8 years older than their wives. In a recent survey of more than 130 countries, none had heterosexual couples where men tended to be younger than their partners or even the same age. So even though women may be attracted to someone that's younger, it may not work out in the long term for a long-term relationship.
No, he's young, and I might feel too self-conscious.
Well, all the single guys we know date women that age. They're not self-conscious.
Am I just trying to spoil a good for her moment?
What good am I if I can't convince my granddaughter to let BuzzFeed's hunkiest brunette come for Christmas?
It'll lead to no good.
Yes, so... I bet he's even more gorgeous in person, isn't he?
Is this just getting back at all of the age gap relationships which have been flaunted at us for many, many years, and now it's finally women who are shown to still be desirable as in their older years? I noticed in these movies there is a lot of messaging of good for her, and lots of these sort of cheers moments. It's you bagged yourself a hot young one, good on you. And especially in the idea of you, there is a lot of lines around people just hate it when women are happy, and people always want to say no, women can't have this, even if men are doing this.
You're okay?
I mean, I didn't know my being happy would piss so many people off.
Oh, right. Did I not warn you? People hate happy women.
But for me personally, progress isn't women treating men the way that men have treated women. I don't like that, because a lot of men have treated us like trash, including from when we're very young. We just get objectified, and we're trained that we have to objectify ourselves to make sure that we don't become the next victim of whatever. I don't see that as a, I can do it too sort of thing. I've talked about that in my objectification video too. But the way that the men are handled in these movies is more seeing them as full beings, except for in a couple of cases, but we'll get into that. And they are appreciated as a person. They are seen as a person. And they want to be with this older person because they appreciate their life experience. They just get along really well. I wanted to find out who exactly it is that is making these movies and bringing them to us. Home Again, written and directed by Hayley Myers-Shire, produced by Erica Old and Nancy Myers. Yes, there is a relation there. The Perfect Find, based on the book by Tia Williams, directed by Numa Perrier, produced by Glendon Palmer, Gabrielle Union, Jeff Marone, Tommy Oliver, Cody Elaine Oliver. A Family Affair, written by Carrie Solomon, directed by Richard, I was going to say LaGravenese. LaGravenese, produced by John Roth and Jeff Kirschenbaum. You can kind of tell it was directed by men. Lonely Planet, written and directed by Susanna Grant, produced by Liza Chasen, Susanna Grant, Sarah Timperman, and you can really tell this movie was written and directed by women. No Hard Feelings, written and directed by Gene Stupinski. John Phillips directed it alongside Gene. It was produced by Alex Sachs, Naomi Odenkirk, Mark Provisario, Jennifer Lawrence, and Justine Chiarocci. Babygirl, written and directed by Helena Rain, produced by David Hinojosa, Helena Rain, and Julia O. The Idea of You, written by Robin Lee originally, produced by Kathy Shulman. Gabrielle Union, Anne Hathaway, Robin Lee, Eric Hayes, Michael Showalter, Jordana Moloch, directed by Michael Showalter. And Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy, Based on the book by Helen Fielding, screenplay by Helen Fielding, Dan Mazer and Abby Morgan, directed by Michael Morris, produced by Tim Bevan, Eric Fellner and Joe Wallach. So as you can see, there are a lot more women writing these movies, producing these movies and directing these movies. So with more involvement from them, they are getting to tell the stories that they want to see of how they are being represented, because they're sort of writing and producing and directing for people of their own age and for characters of their own age, because finally we're seeing women of older than 35 on screen, especially as love interest, because as you can see, as soon as you hit the age of 30, you suddenly become everybody's mother. Even if the age difference between you and the person that you're playing the mother of, there's only maybe 5 years difference, maybe even 1 year in some cases. And in Mandy Moore's case, she is younger than all of the people who are playing her children. But now we're seeing many more ages, which is great. And I love the fact that we've got more women actually telling these stories now. As I was talking with my patrons about this, age gap relationships aren't necessarily bad in and of themselves. And the way that these relationships all develop, as I've been showing you on the screen, is there is this mutual attraction. There is this like camaraderie that builds between them. There's this sort of understanding, this like chemistry click that happens. But it's not any older person purposefully pursuing consistently younger people. And my patrons and I all agree on if someone is only exclusively going after younger people, that's a really gross pattern and that's wrong. But if someone happens to be younger and you happen to have this connection, then that's way more understandable. Of course, there are legal limitations here. I also do want to point out most of these women are older and very rich as well. And so money does definitely give people more power in a capitalist society. We have to address the Oedipus complex in the room, right? Because, oh my goodness, how many of these movies bring up the fact that these women could be someone's mother? It happens all the time. Now, one argument absolutely could be saying, well, this never comes up anytime that an older man is with a younger woman, because, again, like I've explained, that is standard. That is very normal. So there could be a hint dropped in the way of a joke, like what happens in Home Again.
Sure, I just need a second.
Yeah. Are you want water or a cold washcloth?
Wow, you are so maternal, Alice. You should be a mom.
Or it can be directly coming from the older woman going to the younger man saying, I'm old enough to be your mother, I could be your mother, or something along those sorts of lines.
I'm too old for you.
No, you're not.
I could be your mother.
You're not.
But I could be.
But you're not.
He'll deny it, completely rebuff it, or be offended by it, like what happens in Lonely Planet when she says this.
Be careful there. I could fall for a kid like you.
What did you call me?
Kid.
Wow, okay.
It's not a criticism.
And it's like the men are being offended because they're feeling infantilized by this, because you know this can happen when it comes up to the age gap relationship discourses I've talked about in the past. It's these men in these movies asserting, no, you don't make me think of a mother, you don't fit into that sort of thing, this isn't some sort of Oedipus complex, this isn't anything like that. As is shown in The Idea of You, the amount of hatred which goes to Anne Hathaway's character is huge online. She gets called a cradle robber. This also happens in the OG, how Stella got her groove back.
Here, you're a cradle robber. Yeah. How could you stoop so low?
But there are swaths of comments saying, aren't you someone's mother? You should be ashamed of yourself. A mother shouldn't be acting like this. And of course, we must address the fact that, like I said, all of these women are incredibly beautiful. And so you get comments like this made in The Idea of You.
Selene, the big sister, I'm guessing?
Selene, the mom. Yes, my mom.
You don't look like my mom.
You were Zara's mom?
Yeah.
What, were you in, like, kindergarten when you had her or something?
Oh.
These women are very specifically hot, mostly rich women, except for one case, which this movie is just an anomaly anyway. We'll be getting to it later, trust me. But none of them look like the, quote, caricature of what people think a mum looks like, because as a society, we have decided that motherhood, as soon as you become a mum, that means that you are now turned back into a virgin, and so you cannot be seen as sexy. And so mums are often viewed as like these middle-aged, frumpy women who have given up on life. When women become mothers, they become completely desexed in a way. But all of these women are very beautiful women. The only one that you could possibly say, quote, looks like a mum and that sort of caricature nonsense is Bridget Jones. But they're all beautiful. I know we've got really high beauty standards for women, but Renee Zellweger is still a beautiful woman. So it's completely understandable why these young, hot men would be wanting these older women, because they are rich, they don't look like their mothers, and they have specifically said it's not because of some sort of weird, complex, like Oedipus sort of thing. There's a lot of defenses that are put up around these women to be able to quickly counteract any potential negative commentary that could come against them.
What about what people will say?
I don't care what they say.
So all of this pointing out how hot she is, how wanted she is, how desirable she is, it's another way of everyone getting the opportunity to say, good for her. But once again, do we have to have this desire coming from a younger man in order to make them seem worthy?
You know I'm 40, right?
I knew that. Like, ballpark.
Okay, good.
But it's all of these older women, well, technically not all, there are two who don't do this, but most of them absolutely are the ones that are putting up this barrier to say, I could be your mother, I'm too old for you, I'm this, I'm that. And by having this sort of conversation, it assuages any guilt that could potentially come to play. It stops any finger pointing, really, by actually bringing up the age issue, by bringing up the other problems that come up with age gap relationships that people sometimes don't want to face into. And they don't want to show these women as potentially taking advantage of anyone, except for, once again, in a certain case. And so in all of this as well, they're trying to say that there's no real power dynamic issue because the guys are fully consenting, even if there is this huge age difference, even if most of the women are richer than the young men as well. There's still a significant power imbalance at play, but they've tried their best to minimize it or make it so that we as an audience aren't thinking about that too much because they're like, oh, well, I've thought of this before. Hayes is rich and famous, so he's fine.
It's a chatouche t-shirt. It's made from the hair of endangered Tibetan antelopes. It's the world's softest fabric. It's one of a kind. I only have two.
As we've been taught to do, women are meant to be the moral center. We're meant to be the one that guys especially can turn to be like, oh, is this okay? And so because we've got all of this, we do judge women far more harshly. So I do understand why they've brought this up in conversations in pretty much all of the movies.
Oh my God.
What?
10 years ago, you had a lab partner.
Oh my God.
In a locker.
What matters now is I'm a man. You're a man.
Oh, you my man. You think you're my man.
But she's not a regular mum, she's a cool mum. Actually, scratch that. She is a hot, new version of what people come to think of as a mum. It's a bit like the Aunt May effect. Remember how Aunt May used to be like this elderly woman, and then suddenly she became this absolutely drop-dead gorgeous woman? And so it's like, yeah, even if they are a mama, they can still get it. They're still empowered. Good for her. She can still do all of this stuff. And all of these guys, have any of you noticed just how persistent these guys are? All of them are, except for, again, in that one case. But they track this woman down. They constantly are asking her out. They're constantly trying to woo her, trying to find any way to get near her. So it's almost like they're the absolute pursuer. It's not the woman being the pursuer. And that is one thing which makes kind of a difference, is what they're trying to do is saying like, oh, well, see, she's not the one that's pursuing him, once again, to get rid of the cougar sort of accusations that could be coming up. Okay, we are heading into the spoiler section now, and I'll leave Bridget Jones to the very end of the section so you can just skip ahead to the next timestamp, okay? How else am I meant to show you easily what relationships are good in these movies and what relationships are bad, other than doing a tier list? The lowest of the low is called Stop It, Steve Tyler. And if you don't know anything about Steve Tyler's past, as I've talked about in my Almost Famous videos, Julia Holcomb was the alias name which a 16-year-old girl was called who was with him when he was 25, 26 years old. He even became her legal guardian to be able to take her on tour with him. So that's why I'm saying this one's kind of in hell. We're just like, stop it. This should never have happened to begin with. You know the movie May December. I purposely haven't included that movie because it definitely isn't like a rom-com in any way. But that relationship would be Stop It, Steve Tyler. Okay, I'm just putting it out there right now. The level just above that is Dane Cook energy, because this is someone who is kind of waiting around for someone to become legal, and then they're just like, Great, I can be with you now.
I'm 49, my girlfriend's 23. She was doing her homework, and I said, where have you been all my life? And then I remembered she wasn't alive for the first 26 years of it.
We could easily call the Dane Cook energy category Sam and Aaron Taylor Johnson. In case you don't know the story of that, she was the one who spotted him and wanted him to be in the movie, and she pulled so many strings to get him to be in the movie when he was 18, just turned 18. She's much older than him. I would be putting her into this category. Maybe actually halfway between Stop It, Steve Tyler. That is one age gap relationship in the real world, which is still happening to my knowledge. Power dynamic, all entirely in her favor. So that one I would be putting in here. Okay, yeah. It's really nasty. Middle tier is kind of messy, TBH. You can see why they hooked up, but also the way that they handled it. So yikes, and just even them being together, kind of yikes. And then we get up to, I can see why they hooked up. Like, this relationship kind of makes sense. You can see the mutual attraction, you can see it potentially working, and top tier is as cute as this trope can be. I was trying to think about a couple that I can really think of that fall into this, and fictionally I could only really think of April and Andy, but she's the younger one there. I can't think of any characters from previous movies which fall into this as good as it can be. In Home Again, she does have good rapport with Harry, the guy that she really does spend most of the time with. They have this really nice sort of relationship. She does view him as a full human being. She doesn't objectify him, but all of the guys are actually interested in her. However, one of them she easily and definitely puts down by saying this.
You're one of the good ones. You're like a woman.
Did a guy write this about the whole reflection on, like, nice guys never get the girl? Is that what that's about? Because the three guys are broke and trying to make a movie, they live in her guest house. Power dynamic, very off with this. Even though, yes, it is her mother who encourages her to let them stay.
Everything that Isabella's going through, this could really set her off.
And Reese constantly fights off this relationship from even happening.
And I appreciate the gesture, I really do, but how old are you? Like 30? 29?
Something like that.
Oh, Jesus.
And you have her young kids involved, and she's still splitting up with her ex-partner. This is kind of messy, TBH, even though you can see that there's chemistry there. And I really like this whole discussion. I may not be able to include it on YouTube for you.
You deserve much, much better than me. I don't mean that like most guys mean it, which is that they don't mean it at all. I actually do.
You know, before I met you, I was probably more alone and terrified than I'd ever been in my entire life. You made that fade away, and I'll always be grateful.
So you see what I mean? This is actually really nice. The kids bonding with the guys was very wholesome in sort of like this friendship kind of way, and it was actually handled very well, including about this guy working well with the eldest daughter and helping her to gain confidence and overcome her anxieties. And I really do like the ending of this because they've actually formed a friendship, all of them, and she's getting along with the ex-husband, with the kids and stuff, and it's very nice in terms of that. Like, yeah, sure, there's no romantic ending, but there is still a very happy, workable ending, and they all still get along. And I just like the fact that not every happy ending has to end in a romantic relationship happening. Instead, there are many other kinds of relationships that can happen, and the father actually no longer being such a dropkick because he was really kind of abandoning the kids a lot before, leaving everything to her. So he had to learn some lessons. The guys grew, she gained confidence from being around them. Like, it was kind of like a win-win. So I can see why these ones hooked up. Like, I can see it. I'm going to put it around here, even though there is definitely a power dynamic issue here with the fact that she was the one that had the roof over their heads. So if she was a malicious person, then she could have easily coerced and forced a relationship with Harry. So you see what I mean? Like, there are issues here. So I'm going to bridge the gap between I can see why they hooked up and it's kind of messy. The perfect find. Gabrielle Union's character has been dumped by this amazing dude that she used to be with. It was all over the tabloids and stuff. They were like this power couple, and she's been depressed and shut away for a whole year. And then she goes out to celebrate her 40th birthday party and then stumbles across our love interest.
You good, Sleeping Beauty?
Instant sparks. The chemistry in this is really, really good.
You also look like a college student.
I'll have you know I have a master's in film from USC.
Of course you do.
But Tragedy, turns out that he is the son of the person that she's about to work for, who used to be her arch nemesis. And so they have to sort of like hide it from her. They try to break it off, or she definitely tries to break it off and just say, nope, we can't be together at all. But his mother notices that he's got a crush on her and even confronts Gabrielle Union's character to her face.
Eric has a small crush. Really? But we don't need this moving any further into some kind of distraction.
There is no distraction.
And they do, of course, eventually get together. Look, they're like matchy-matchy in their clothes. They're playing footsies under the table in her office. It's messy. The 22-year-old is still living with his mum at this time, okay? Just remind, I know that he's a consenting adult and all that stuff that you want to say.
It's cute, though.
But they get discovered together by his mother, of course, and I do appreciate what she's saying.
And I came to you as a courtesy, and you promised.
I promised there would be no distractions.
If it's not obvious to you in this little sex haze that you're in, you're fired.
Understandable, yep. But do these two end up together? Yes, they do. And she's even pregnant at 40. Congratulations.
This you?
It's us.
I was really struggling with where to place this one, and as cute as this trope can get, it's kind of messy all the way to I can see why they hooked up. I was really like torn between all three of them. I'm gonna have it straddling higher up though. Babygirl, I know it's not a rom-com, but I still want to put the relationship in here. So she is his boss, okay? Like the power dynamic, even though the movie keeps on trying to say that the power dynamic is more balanced because he's the dom to the sub, no, I will just leave it up to Kenny JD to explain what I think of the power dynamic that exists in that movie.
It's kind of a dead end for me because my what if is always going to go to, well, she's his boss. I don't give a about any other component at this point. And sure, he exerts that he has certain levels of power, but at the end of the day, she's your boss.
This is halfway between Dane Cook energy and Stop It, Steve Tyler. I know that she's already married to Antonio Banderas. This is not okay, okay? Bosses should never do this sort of stuff. No. The idea of you. I have to admit, much like Bowie Deschanel, really did enjoy their chemistry. They relate really well on camera. And yes, they aged up Hayes' character, yes, because we know this is based on fan fiction, to 24 to make this a bit more understandable because she turns 40 as well. But the fact that she was in this relationship with him without telling her daughter, and the daughter gets so bullied, but then for some reason in this movie, the daughter is so quickly okay with this. And also, we have a lot of lines in this movie which are saying, oh, people just hate it when women are happy.
If you were gonna tell me something happened, I'm just saying, that's nothing.
Okay, so hang on. When Daniel does it, it's gross, but if I were to do it, it would be fine?
Yeah, because I hate him and I love you.
It's because you're a woman and it's because you're older than him. They hate you for it. So that's just hypocritical and unfair.
As a parent of any sort, or as a caregiver of any sort, you need to be more responsible when it comes to actually looking out for the best interests of your kids. Like, you should at least be honest with them and tell them.
You lied to me. Like Dad lied. And that sucked. Thought I could count on you.
I am so sorry.
You know how famous this person is. You've seen what the paparazzi are like. You'd know the sort of hell this would unleash on your teenage daughter. So as much as I'm like, I can see where they hooked up, it's kind of messy, TBA. Like I said, I read the book for this, and this one goes into Stop It, Steve Tyler. Instantly. She is relishing over his 20-year-old body. She keeps on marveling at how taut his skin is, and there's a lot of N-log energy in the book as well, and he's comparing her to other girls, and she's comparing herself to other girls and putting them down, and it's just, I really, really hated this book. And yeah, I kept gagging, and I'm just glad that I don't have to read it anymore now that this video is done. Lonely Planet, they have a genuine and warm friendship which automatically kind of grows. Like, it's not something that either of them are pursuing each other in, because he's in a relationship with this young writer who treats him like absolute dirt, who puts him down in front of other people.
Hey, forgive him, okay? You only read Sports Illustrated.
And just keeps on dismissing him. He gets food poisoning and she's like, you still coming to the desert? And it's like, what? He had food poisoning. What's going on? And she cheats on him just to rub more salt into the wound. And Laura Dern's character is fairly recently divorced and has to find a new place to live or whatever. She's trying to finish off her book and she's stuck and she needs to get out of this rut. And they go on exploring places together. It's just kind of like a convenience thing because they're both around. They have such a good connection. She supports him, he supports her. It is actually something which you could see working long term. Now, do they end up together? It's hard to tell from the ending, actually.
Never a distraction, you were the whole point.
I say that as the movie literally ends on them kissing. Like, what do you think? But I would be bridging this one between the gap of as cute as this trope can be, and I can see why they hooked up, because when you actually watch it, this is why I said you can tell it was written and directed by women. Like, there's full personhood, there's no objectification that's happening, there is no dehumanization that's happening, it's actual care that's given to all of the characters. So yeah, I like this one. I was in so much pain and feeling so bad that I had to stop filming before, so welcome, you get 2 different variants, 2 different looks to match different nail polish colors. The relationship in A Family Affair. Joey King had better chemistry with Zac Efron than Nicole Kidman did. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. Yeah, it was on a friendship level. I don't care. Like, I did not see any sparks at all, so it made the relationship very hard to believe. Their relationship starts by Nicole Kidman is cleaning her house and Zac Efron arrives because he's trying to hire Joey King back because, yes, her daughter is his employee.
Left the front door open.
Do you always just let yourself in?
Well, I'm famous, so yeah.
And then they get drunk together, and again, I just didn't feel any sparks. But, you know, they hooked up because they got along well. And then Joey King walks in on them.
Sunscreen.
She said SPF 35?
Yes.
And she freaks out, hits her head, they have to go to hospital, and then she says to them, you cannot have this relationship.
Oh my God, you're not Jack and Rose, just get out of the car! It's this gross little sexcapade thing that's over!
She knows that Zac Efron's character is an absolute scumbag, and also it's just weird having your mum with that person, even though she's 24 in this movie, and so she's still living at home, but as we know, it's kind of unaffordable to live out by yourself or be renting. But then they sneak behind Joey's back, and then they get caught, and then they sneak again, and then they get caught, and Joey King has to realize, oh my goodness, my mother is a full human being and not just the mother.
Well, I suppose to a child, that's all she would be. To a young adult, she might also be a woman.
Yeah, like there are some realizations, and then they get to kiss in this coordinated time at the grocery store with the showers and stuff. Like, okay, fine. The age gap isn't really much of an issue, and I have to say I feel for Nicole with the fact that she's stuck with her husband just because he was sick, even though he wanted to get a divorce from her because he was jealous of how famous and accomplished she was. So she was married to a weak man previously. So the fact that Zac Efron's character admires her and wants to learn from her, like, yeah, at least that's some progress, right? So that's good. But in terms of like just their relationship as is, it's kind of messy. But if Joey King hadn't gotten so involved, would it have been as messy? No, not really. It's just 2 people that get along and have chemistry, heavy quotation marks here because I really didn't feel it. But kind of regardless, it is a bit selfish to go dating your daughter's boss, right? Maybe I'm alone on that. I don't know. You tell me. I could be unpopular here again. Babygirl, you know exactly what tier this is going into. Bossing an intern. This should never have happened. Stop it, Steve Tyler. Nasty. We have to talk about No Hard Feelings. I am so sorry, but I think that you know what tier this goes into. I'll give you the briefest synopsis. So Jennifer Lawrence's character is 32 and she lives in Montague, which is getting completely gentrified to the point where people who already were living there are being priced out of it. And that could have been a really interesting movie unto itself. So she is struggling to actually find any way to be able to afford to pay the very high taxes which are on her property, which she inherited from her mother. And she is a messy, bad person, like consistently bad. Like all of the decisions she makes up until right at the end are disgusting. Her car gets taken away, which means that she can't be an Uber driver anymore, which is how she makes most of her money when all of the people come on holiday in Montague. And so she has to find a way to get a car. And her friend points out this advert.
Need a car for college, date our 19-year-old son this summer. He's a wonderful young man, extremely smart, but socially very shy. He's never had a girlfriend, and we've tried everything. We're looking for an attractive, kind, and intelligent woman, early to mid-20s, to date him and bring him out of his shell before he leaves for college in the fall.
It does say early to mid-20s, though.
That's okay, I can pass for that.
Okay.
And she's like, yeah, I could do that. And so she goes to them, and there's a lot of nudge, nudge, wink, wink. They do find out her real age.
I'm slightly older. Right. How old? I just turned 29.
Recently?
Last year.
So you're 29?
Last year.
And how old are you, like, right now?
1 more year older.
So 30?
Yeah. 32.
And she's completely fine with manipulating, coercing, almost threatening this teenager to sleep with her so that she can get this car. And the issue is that she is the absolute worst person for the entire first 40 minutes of this movie, which is about half the movie. She is doing disgusting things like making him drink whilst he's underage.
This is the worst iced tea I've ever had.
Percy, you're going to college soon. You're going to have to learn how to drink.
She coerces him into a van to take him home, and then she drives to her own house so that she can seduce him and sleep with him, and he sprays her with mace, rightfully so.
Come on, let's get you out of these Daisy Dukes.
Maddie.
I'm ugly to you. I knew it. I knew it.
I don't like this.
Why not?
Because it's like you're trying to eat me.
She only starts to humanize this poor kid when he gets hives because she has made him so nervous and anxious that he comes out in this huge rash. That is the first time that she sees him as anything of a human being. And the thing is that he feels bad because he is leaving her horny. So he feels like he's blueballing her effectively. He feels terrible. And even after this, she keeps on trying to push him the whole entire time. Even when he comes across someone of his own age who he is genuinely excited to see, he gets to go to a party and everything. She does this.
Did you him? Oh my god.
Yes, she has some character growth, but it's only right at the end of the movie. And I'm sorry, but having this person, no matter what gender they are, consistently pursue you, try to you, because that's effectively what she was okay with doing, whether he said yes or no. And it's just like, oh, for goodness sake. If anyone's trying to say that we should be glad that she didn't go through with it when he said I love you because he was drunk, like, the bar is really in hell if we're counting that as like a good moral standing. Like, seriously, like, that's in Xander levels of hell because he didn't, help Buffy when she was under a spell.
I remember coming on to you. I remember begging you to undress me. I also remember that you didn't
Need cheese?
undress me. It meant a lot to me what you said.
Come on, Buffy, I couldn't take advantage of you like that. Okay, for a minute it was touch and go there.
You came through.
No part of this is okay. You know this is going into Stop It, Steve Tyler. I would put it on this level of hell. Absolutely. Spoiler warning, go ahead to the next section if you don't want to know what happens and Bridget Jones mad about the boy. 3, 2, 1. She has 2 love interests in this movie, and the first one is the toy boy, or Rockster, we should call him. He rescues her when she's trying to climb a tree. He purposefully finds her on Tinder. They meet for a drink. She notices that he is younger than her. He says that he's a student, and he says, but I'm an elder student. And he says, I'm 28. And he said, I lied. I'm 29. So he is 29 years old, and then he asks her, and she's like, just doesn't answer. He said, well, you must be like 35, and she just says, let's go with that. So she lies directly to his face.
29. What about you?
Slightly older?
I'm gonna say 35-ish.
Yes. 35, all right.
I think older women, ever so slightly older women, have a wiser view on life.
I know it's a whole thing of never ask a woman her age, but he really did ask her outright, and it's just a 20-year gap between the age that he thinks and what you said, that really is like a big red flag. And I want to know what you think about this, because personally for me, I would have been more okay if she said, oh, definitely higher than that, like, I'm over 50. If she had said that, then that would be more informed consent on his part, right? I know that we live in a very ageist society, but in the same way where I'm totally fine to say that I'm 35, it's just like, it doesn't matter if you're 55. Just let him make his mind up at that point. I also asked Brandon about this because a friend of mine disagreed with me and said that I had the complete wrong take, and I may do, so I actually do want to know what you think of this if you've seen the movie. And he said, direct quote, the age gap isn't the issue, the lying is. And I'm like, that's the point. Like, you shouldn't build a relationship on a lie. I don't think that you can start a romantic relationship on a lie, especially when you're asked outright. It's just a real scummy thing, and as you can tell, this has bothered me. This is a movie series watched by mostly women, mostly older women as well, and to have the main protagonist be all coy and shy and embarrassed about her age and not want to say her age, I'm like, what sort of messaging is that? Like, we're meant to be past the point of having to hide our age, because you should be feeling proud of it, proud of all of the things that you've achieved in life. And I don't know, it just... all of the other movies, except for the one where they don't state ages at all, they're all like fine with what age they are, unless they're actively trying to deceive someone. But otherwise, like, everyone's just like, I'm 40, I'm whatever age, you know, and I think that that's a really good thing, and I really like that shift. I know that Bridget isn't the most confident and assertive person, but she is effervescent and bubbly and unapologetically herself, and then to have this character act like she needs to be ashamed of her age is just, I just really didn't like it on a lot of levels. I know that he said he Googled her, but not everyone has their ages out there, okay? Seriously, especially if a woman is feeling insecure about her age and doesn't want it to be revealed to someone who's on a date with her. You know, she doesn't want that to be out there, so her age wouldn't be out there. The fact that she was married previously, if he Googled her, would be out there, but, you know, she could marry someone that was older. And by the way, Colin Firth is 8 years older than her in Bridget Jones. I do have to say that their relationship is cute, but it does definitely fall into the trope of the young person fits into the older person's life. He goes hanging out with the kids, he goes round to their place, and it's all like very sweet, wholesome, you know, fun that they have. And she is like, it's Bridget Jones, so she is always more like effervescent and bubbly and like jumping around and stuff. So they do have a lot of like cute dates and stuff that you see them go on, and they have a really nice connection. But we don't see her going to his friends, we don't see her meeting his family, we don't see any of that. It's all him doing what she wants. And she wanted him to be at this birthday party for one of her colleagues. But at her colleague's party that he goes to and does the whole grand entrance and dives in the pool and has the wet shirt moment and everyone's ogling at him, everybody is. And then they're saying, oh, good on you, Bridge, you bagged yourself a young hottie, and just, I don't like that messaging. And I know there's going to be people saying, oh, but it's just a homage to Daniel Cleaver in the first movie. I know these movies well, okay? Like, trust me, I saw the resemblance. However, look at what happens with Daniel Cleaver. Look at how short of a shot this actually is in comparison to how it gets treated in Bridget Jones 4. Come on, you have to admit this is pure objectification that is happening. And it's really, like, leery. Like, these people are openly leering at him. I personally think that's when it sank home to him how old she actually was, to see the environment that she's around. And that was why he said, I wish I had a time machine, because it finally clicked to him what her age must have been. Like, he may have thought maybe early 40s or something, and that's why he was saying 35. But I don't think that he quite realized that she was 55. At least that's what makes sense to me, for him to have this sudden, I wish that I had a time machine thing, and then to completely ghost her. That's what I think. You tell me. He ghosts her, but then he comes back to her set and says that he's ready for all of it. He's ready for the family. He's ready for everything. And she is the mature one, and she shuts it down, saying that, yes, you are ready for all of this, but not with me. Because she has the very pragmatic approach, which I appreciate is something which pops up in a lot of these movies, is this very pragmatic, it's like, yes, you are ready now, but if you come with me, then you're you're going to miss out on doing that stuff for yourself. You won't be going through those things with someone else, which is clearly where you actually do want to go through and what you are actually ready for. And I do appreciate that, because it is down to the practicalities of stuff, because she's 55. Do we even know if he knows that by now? That's never addressed ever again. And he's 29, you know, so the next 20 years of her life are going to be very different to the next 20 years of his life. And it's really good, in my opinion, that she had this more pragmatic thing with him. I really did like their relationship. They are so cute together, and she just is so bubbly and effervescent, and everyone loves Bridget Jones. I really like how they've characterized her in this movie in comparison to the third movie. The third movie, I think, should not exist at all. I hate that movie so much. It's got the same sort of humor as the Gilmore Girls revival, and we know that's not good. And it also is very messy with the fact that she was bringing him around her kids, and her kids, mind you, the daughter, starts on thinking everyone's like her new daddy. Like, can we, there are just some definite pitfalls here. I haven't read the book in full transparency, so I don't know how the age was revealed in the book. It's just, we can make changes from the book to the movie, like what they did with The Idea of You. The Idea of You book, trash, hate it. The Idea of You movie, I actually enjoy and I like, kind of unironically, to be age. So yeah, that's my take on the Bridget Jones thing. So where do I rank them in terms of their relationship? So I can definitely see why they hooked up, because they had really great chemistry, but there is still messiness there, like with the lies and stuff. So I am indeed putting this higher up because their relationship was indeed really cute. And remember, S tier does not mean it's like the most amazing relationship ever, because all of these relationships have issues. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with where things are, and surprisingly more higher up than I was thinking we would get. To be honest with you, I could probably still put a few more down in a kind of messy TBH.
Hello and welcome to Meet Your Second Wife. Where, Brian, let's meet your second wife. Brian, this is Hannah. Hannah is currently an 8th grade student at Wellington Middle School, but one day, years in the future, she will be your second wife.
I guess I'll see you again in 20 years.
Actually, it's 7.
Let's play a little game. What if the genders were reversed? Would these storylines still work? Would people still be happy with the relationships that they've seen on screen? I know that people will be saying, oh, the power dynamics aren't the same because like men have more power if they were older and stuff, and it's like, okay, but in the same way where I don't think that teachers who are women should be held to any less account if they are preying on students, like in the exact same way, I don't think that's acceptable. And I want to assess this because the reason that so many of these movies are coming out is because all of these women who have been involved in these movies want to actually change the age gap relationship narrative. So I want to see how they would work if the roles were indeed reversed. This is just a thought experiment.
I've just never seen you stay awake through an entire night, so.
Well, that's not what your mom said. Oh wait, that's not what I meant.
Get out.
A 34-year-old celebrity being with a 50-year-old author, I don't really think that we'd take much of an issue with this. It would be even less of an issue if they had genuine chemistry. The whole being the assistant's boss thing, I am sure if we were dealing with 2 men in those roles, they would try and make it into this weird incestuous love triangle thing, and I'm very glad that they didn't do that now that I've put it out there into the world, because weirdly that could have easily happened. But yeah, I really don't think anyone would have much of an issue with this, except for the fact that it's very messy with being the assistant's boss, and like that relationship thing, and yeah, just those sorts of like blurry boundaries. I mean, heck, this could really be like Music and Lyrics, the movie, which is a movie I really enjoy, even though there is a big age gap in that one. I'm not saying that you have to hate any of the movies I've used in this, except for the ones involving teenagers, because that's disgusting. But yeah, we would once again be lamenting the fact that it's always older man with far younger woman. That's really what we get from this. But otherwise, it would be okay.
How does your guy deal with all this stuff?
Who said I have a guy?
Lonely Planet. Honestly, one of the absolute best ones. I don't think that anybody would find trouble with this relationship happening, just like people haven't found trouble with it happening on screen. I don't see any reason why people would have a problem with it, because the characters are very humanized. Everything is full informed consent and everything like flows together well. You would get the exact same respectful love story that you see on screen with Lonely Planet.
Yeah, hold on a minute. So I think you're telling me that you have free living childcare, full-time tech support, and sex.
I can't complain.
Home again. 3 mid-20s women staying at a 40-year-old man's house in the guest house, and they are all kind of in love with him. They all have crushes on him, and he only is involved with one of them. Yeah, we would be calling this a bit of a male fantasy, wouldn't we? Oh, and also the fact that the ex wants to get back with them. It would just be everybody being in love with this one man. We would definitely be like side-eyeing this. But the way that it's actually done in this movie is handled that situation so well that you don't really think of it like that at all. You don't think of this as like a female fantasy because she's still like taking care of them and she is like very mature about everything and trying to push them away. But I don't know. I really do think this would be seen as a male fantasy if it was like the other way around.
I read about this. About your generation. You guys are spoiled and ungrateful and entitled. Yeah, okay, I know what this is.
And I read about 40-plus-year-old professional single black women being bitter and mean.
The perfect find. A 22-year-old college grad gets with a 40-year-old man, and it turns out that the college grad's father is the 40-year-old's boss. Yeah. We would be finding some issues with this now, wouldn't we?
It was forced.
What?
What?
Babygirl. Okay, no, nobody would be okay with this CEO man getting with this intern, regardless of whatever age they are, and having this sort of BDSM relationship with them. No, it doesn't matter if the younger person was the dom to him being a sub. Like, there may be a bit of commentary in the kink community about that, but I really don't think people would be okay with this. People would just go telling you to go watch Secretary instead. But even in Secretary, Maggie Gyllenhaal's character is like a sub as well. So yeah, if you want to explore this a bit more, go watch Secretary then. It's from 2002. I don't think that movie could be made today.
I mean, how old are you?
23.
Damn, you old as f***.
No hard feelings. Straight up, no, everybody would be up in arms about a 32-year-old man persistently going after this 19-year-old girl and the way that he does it. Even if he recreated exactly what Jennifer Lawrence did, everybody would hate this. They would go call it attempted constantly. Nobody would be on board with this. Seriously, this would never be able to be made if the genders were reversed. I think that in 10 years' time, people will look back on this movie and be like, how on earth was this made? In the same way where we look back on the 2000s movies and we're like, oh God, what were they doing?
You embarrassed to be jet-setting around the world with a 24-year-old pop star? Because it's fine.
The idea of you, the movie version, I think that a lot of people would still be on board with this. But if they had the same sort of chemistry that Anne Hathaway and what's his name do, I think that people would kind of be more okay with it. But the book version, oh hell no, would people be okay with this? Nah. Never. Like, a 40-year-old woman lusting after teenagers, as she does quite openly in the book. No, that would never happen.
With the tree rescuing rubbish expert Adonis, who might be slightly younger probably, and it was amazing!
Bridget Jones, or should I say Bradley Jones, mad about the girl. Y'all would not like the fact that he lied. I am telling you right now, you would be taking great issue with the fact that he said that he was 35 or was nodding along to being 35 when he's actually 55. You would be taking issue with that. And you would also not like the fact that the 29-year-old woman was being objectified by all of the friends at the party. You would hate that. And you would also not like the fact that this 29-year-old woman was automatically becoming like a parental figure to these kids and looking after them like what happens in the movie. And you also wouldn't like the fact it's just the younger person slotting into the older person's life. You wouldn't like that. I'm putting it out there right now. But there would still be some defenders of it, especially if they have the sort of cute chemistry as what we see on screen with this relationship. Like I said, I think that Rockstar and Bridget have a really good connection, but I can just see if the roles were reversed, we'd take great issue with those things. I really like the way that Bridget ended it with Rockstar, or I guess we'd call them Roxy. And I saw that joke in the movie, by the way, because she called him Roxy, and I was like, that's a Chicago shout out. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy Bridget Jones Mad About the Boy, I'm just saying that there's some problems when it comes to how relationships are written. Final thoughts. Overall, looking at all of these movies, you can see that progress has indeed been made when it comes to the age gap relationship trope, and only some of the pitfalls have continuously happened. Like, some movies have outright just avoided all of the pitfalls. And I really like the fact that we've got women behind the camera, women in the writing room, who are making it so that they're showing this is how an age gap relationship can practically work. Even if they don't end up together, it doesn't mean that the relationship was a failure overall. Not every relationship lasts a lifetime, but that doesn't mean it was a failure or a bad relationship. Some people are together for a season and that's okay. But in those movies where the relationship doesn't end up together, I like the fact that they're actually conscious of the younger person's time. And when the younger person's like, I'm ready for all of this stuff, they're like, it shouldn't be with me, though, because you would be jumping over this. And I really like how that's how the age gap relationship has developed, with the older person, instead of being entirely selfish and being like, well, I've bagged a young bird now, I'm awesome. You know, they're instead a lot more mature and considerate of everybody's lives, not just like braggadocious, you know. So I think that that's a really good like development that has indeed happened. And I really hope in movies that get made after this point, we're going to see more age gap relationships where the age gap is actually closer between the leads, if it's a man and a woman, or even the woman being older. Like in Crazy Rich Asians, Constance Wu is actually 5 years older than Henry Golding. And the other thing I'm grateful for these movies is they're showing women over the age of 40 sparkling and shining in movies, being the romantic interest and not being that seen as like the lesser option ever. I love to see that and I want to see more of it. A lot of these movies are a giant fuck you to Hollywood and all of their ageist, sexist standards, and I think that's really great. And once again, I don't think that all age gap relationships are bad. Like I said, there are some of these relationships which I actually really like. If people have a mutual attraction and they develop a relationship that just happens to be an age gap relationship, nothing wrong with that. The problem comes, as I was talking with my patrons about, if people are only pursuing someone that's younger than them, or only pursuing someone that's in like this particular age group, and it's like, oh, you need to mature a bit. Like that's where the creepy behavior happens. If you come across someone in the wild and you're both like, we're really hitting it off, and you develop a relationship, no problem with that. If it's an age gap one, that's totally fine. Obviously with consenting adults and all of the other caveats that come into play too. We are still dealing with some of the pitfalls of the whole, cheers, you got yourself a young man, oh good on you, and people ogling at or objectifying the younger person. We need to let go of this, okay? We really do need to let go of this. It strips people of their personhood, and it again pedestals youth as the ultimate thing to attain, and I think that we culturally really need to keep on trying to shift away from this narrative, because doing that whole cheers thing, that is once again saying you got yourself someone younger. Younger means winning, and I don't think that's the message that we should have. We should be cheersing someone if they're in a happy relationship, or if they've gotten a promotion, or if they have started doing like a hobby that they really enjoy, or if they've achieved a dream or overcome a challenge or something. That's the stuff that we should be cheersing to, not because we're objectifying who someone is with, you know? Like, I think we've still got a little way to go there, because this is still pedestaling youth as the ultimate thing, and that's not a good thing. Well, youth and looks, you know, like that combination. No. But my opinion may be an unpopular one. That's happened before. I just like to get people thinking about stuff and the real implications of it so that we get like the bigger picture. I think that you know that I really like to do that. But once again, I want to keep on seeing women not dull their sparkle on screen, women being able to shine over the age of 40 on screen. And these movies have helped to usher that along a bit more. Also, no part of this is including no hard feelings. Even though I did laugh during some parts of that movie, we can all understand it's like, what the hell, this was able to be made? But I'm so keen to hear what your thoughts are on the whole older women with younger men trope that we're seeing it flourishing on screen. I don't think that we're done with them either. I think we're going to get more movies like this. But if you made it all the way to the end of this video and you don't quite know what else to say, leave whatever sparkling emoji, because I think that we can all agree that it's so nice to see women be vivacious and awesome on screen over the age of 40. I love to see it. So like stars, fireworks, sparklers, whatever you want. I know that people will bring up that Sex and the City did it first, but we can all agree that those movies were bad. Even if Sex and the City was showing women over 30, over 40 as being vivacious characters, we can still recognize that there were definite issues with that. And even with these movies, most of these women, except for the movie that we do not like, were all very rich, very well established. Like, money was never a concern for them. So we're still dealing with mostly rich white women, mostly, except for one case of an older black woman who is rich. But yeah, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, because that makes a huge difference when it comes to YouTube. And a special thank you to my patrons, because they've really, really helped to inform this video, as they do with all of my videos. And an extra special thank you to my top tier Trash Panda enablers: Alyssa Pisani, Birgit, Carrie Quake, Danielle, Jam, Laura Bell, Megan Connolly, Michaela Garfinkel, Mila Gauthier, Stella Sapiente, Tammy Poitras, Tim Long, Tonya Banyai, Varu Catmama. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you again soon. There's probably going to be a 2-week break though, because I've been struggling health-wise, and I'm sure that you all understand. But I am working on that housework video, and there's also a video about relationships and respect in relationships, especially in regards to what Kanye has been doing recently, which I really want to talk about. But that's been a video which has been on my mind for, what, a year now, honestly. Can you have love without respect? I personally don't think so. But anyway, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. Also, do you like my cardigan I got for $1? I also got a matching one in red. Isn't that so nice? As a Texan, I love your southern accent. Well, a lot of other people didn't.